The private hospital stood tall and quiet under bright white lights. From the outside, it looked calm and perfect, but inside, fear filled the air. Nurses moved fast through the halls. Doctors spoke in low voices. Machines beeped again and again, like a warning that time was running out. In one special room, a small baby lay on a large hospital bed. The baby was the child of a billionaire, born into wealth and power, yet now fighting for life. Tiny hands rested by the baby's side. The chest moved slowly, each breath weak and painful. Tubes and wires covered the little body. Every sound from the machines made the parents jump. The mother stood near the bed, her eyes red from crying. She had not slept in 2 days. Her hands shook as she touched her baby's tiny fingers. She whispered prayers again and again, hoping for a miracle. The father stood behind her, silent and broken. He was a man who could buy anything in the world, but at that moment, his money meant nothing. One by one, doctors entered the room. These were not ordinary doctors. They were the best. Famous names. Specialists from different countries. 18 doctors had already tried to save the baby. They checked reports, changed medicines, and discussed plans late into the night. But nothing worked. A senior doctor stepped forward and spoke carefully. "We have done everything possible," he said. "The illness is rare. The baby's body is too weak." Another doctor shook his head slowly. "We are losing time," he added. "There is no response." The mother fell to her knees. Her cry filled the room. "Please," she begged. "Try again. Do something. Anything." The father clenched his fists. His eyes were filled with pain and anger. "Bring more doctors," he said. "I will pay anything." The senior doctor looked away. "Money is not the problem," he said softly. "We have no solution left." The words hit harder than any blow. Outside the room, nurses stood quietly. Some wiped their eyes. Others looked at the floor. They had seen many patients, but this felt different. A baby so small. Parents so broken. Hope slowly dying. Inside the room, the machines began to beep more slowly. A nurse looked at the monitor and her face changed. "The heartbeat is dropping," she said. The mother screamed. The father rushed forward. Doctors moved fast, trying once more. They pressed buttons, gave medicine, and watched the screens closely. Minutes passed. Nothing changed. Finally, the senior doctor took a deep breath. His voice was heavy. "I'm sorry," he said. "We should prepare the parents." Silence filled the room. The mother held her baby close, crying quietly now. The father turned his face away, tears falling freely. The world he had built suddenly felt empty and useless. At that moment, the door opened softly. Everyone turned. A young black girl stood at the doorway. She was small and thin, about 12 years old. She wore simple clothes and old shoes. Her hair was tied back neatly. In her hands, she held a small notebook, worn at the edges. No one noticed her at first. All eyes were on the baby. The girl took one step forward. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but clear enough to be heard. "Can I try?" The room froze. Doctors turned with surprise. A nurse gasped quietly. The father looked confused. The mother lifted her head slowly. "What did you say?" one doctor asked. The girl swallowed and spoke again. "I said, can I try to help the baby?" A few doctors exchanged looks. One of them frowned. "This is not a place for children," he said. "Please wait outside." The girl did not move. Her hands shook, but her eyes were steady. "I know you tried everything," she said. "But I think there is something you missed." The doctors laughed quietly, not out of cruelty, but disbelief. "We have 18 doctors here," one said. "And you think you know better?" The girl looked at the baby again. Her face showed pain, like she had seen this before. "I have seen this sickness," she said softly. The mother stood up slowly. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice tired and broken. "My name is Aisha," the girl replied. "I don't want money. I don't want fame. I just want to try." The senior doctor shook his head. "This is impossible," he said. "We cannot let a child." Suddenly, the machine let out a sharp sound. The nurse looked at the screen. "The heartbeat is dropping fast," she said urgently. The room went into panic again. The father looked at the doctors, then at the small girl standing quietly at the door. For the first time, he felt something he had not felt in days. Hope. His voice trembled as he spoke. "If you have nothing left," he said slowly, "then what do we have to lose?" The doctors fell silent. All eyes turned to the 12-year-old girl. And in that moment, when 18 doctors had given up, a child stepped forward to change everything. The room fell silent after the father's words. Doctors looked at one another in disbelief. Some shook their heads slowly, others sighed in frustration. The idea of letting a 12-year-old girl help in such a serious moment felt impossible to them. This was a private hospital, filled with experts, machines, and years of medical knowledge. What could a child possibly do? The senior doctor cleared his throat. "Sir," he said carefully, "we understand your pain. But this is not a game. Your baby's life is at risk." The father did not reply right away. He looked at his baby again, then at the machines, then back at the small girl standing quietly near the door. She did not look scared. She did not look proud. She looked serious, like someone who carried a heavy truth. One younger doctor whispered to another, "She is just a child. This is a waste of time." A nurse stepped forward gently. "Sweetheart," she said kindly, "you should go home." The girl lowered her eyes for a moment. Her face flushed with embarrassment, but she did not leave. She slowly raised her head again and spoke, her voice still soft but firm. "I know you don't believe me," she said. "But I have seen this sickness before. I know how it starts, and how it ends." The doctors paused. The word "ends" echoed in the room. "What do you know about this illness?" one doctor asked sharply. The girl hugged her small notebook close to her chest. "Enough to know that what you are doing is not helping," she answered. The doctors laughed quietly again. Not loudly, not cruelly, but enough to hurt. "We have studied medicine for decades," another doctor said. "You learned from where? Books? Videos?" The girl shook her head slowly. "From pain," she replied. That single word changed the room. The mother, who had been silent, wiped her tears and looked closely at the girl. There was something familiar in her eyes, deep sadness mixed with strength. "What do you mean?" the mother asked gently. The girl took a deep breath. "My little brother died from this same sickness," she said. "He was younger than your baby." The room grew quiet again. Some doctors looked uncomfortable. Others avoided eye contact. The nurse who had spoken earlier pressed her lips together. "I stayed in the hospital for weeks," the girl continued. "I watched the doctors. I listened. I asked questions. No one answered me, but I still learned. I saw what helped, and what made things worse." One doctor crossed his arms. "Even if that is true," he said, "watching doctors does not make you one." "I know," the girl replied calmly. "That is why I am not asking to be a doctor. I am only asking to try something small." The heartbeat machine beeped again, slower than before. The father felt his chest tighten. Time was slipping away. "What do you want to do?" he asked the girl quietly. The senior doctor stepped in quickly. "Sir, this is dangerous," he warned. "If something goes wrong." "What could go more wrong than this?" the father interrupted. His voice was shaking now. "You said there is no hope left." The doctors fell silent. The girl opened her notebook. Inside were messy pages, small drawings, and notes written in simple words. She pointed to one page. "The problem is not where you think it is," she said. "You are treating the heart, but the sickness is in the blood." Several doctors reacted at once. "That is impossible. That makes no sense. We already tested everything." The girl did not argue. "You tested what you expected to find," she said. "Not what is really there." The mother stepped closer to the bed, holding her baby tightly. Tears ran down her face. "If you are wrong," she whispered. The girl looked at her with gentle eyes. "Then nothing changes," she said. "But if I am right, your baby can live." The room was filled with tension. Doctors whispered among themselves. Some were angry. Some were unsure. Some, deep inside, felt fear, not of failure, but of being wrong. The heartbeat slowed again. A sharp sound came from the machine. "We are running out of time," a nurse said urgently. The father closed his eyes for 1 second. Then he opened them and spoke, his voice steady but broken. "Let her explain," he said. "At least listen." All eyes turned back to the 12-year-old girl. She took a small step forward, holding her notebook tightly. And in that moment, the child everyone had laughed at became the only hope left in the room. The girl stood beside the hospital bed, her small hands holding the notebook as if it were her shield. The room was still filled with doubt, but now it was mixed with fear. The heartbeat on the monitor was weak and uneven. Time was slipping away, and everyone in the room could feel it. The senior doctor rubbed his forehead. "You say the sickness is in the blood," he said slowly. "Explain." The girl nodded. She opened her notebook again, flipping to a page filled with simple drawings. "My brother had the same signs," she began. "The doctors treated his heart too. But his heart was only tired because the blood was not giving it strength." Some doctors leaned closer, curious despite themselves. Others remained stiff, arms crossed, unwilling to believe. "What do you mean by not giving strength?" one doctor asked. The girl pointed to a small drawing. "The blood is not carrying enough oxygen," she said. "The baby is not getting what it needs. The heart is working harder and harder until it gives up." The room went quiet. One doctor shook his head. "We already checked oxygen levels," he said. "They were low, but not enough to cause this." The girl looked up calmly. "Not in the body," she said. "In the blood itself." The words made the doctors pause. "My brother's tests looked normal too," she continued. "But something was hiding. Something rare. By the time the doctors found it, it was too late." The mother covered her mouth, tears flowing again. "What happened to him?" she asked softly. The girl's voice trembled for the first time. "He died in this same hospital," she said. "In a room just like this one." A heavy silence filled the air. "I watched every doctor," the girl went on. "I listened when they talked to each other. I remembered their mistakes. I promised myself that if I ever saw this sickness again, I would not stay silent." One of the younger doctors stepped forward. "What is the name of this condition?" he asked carefully. The girl shook her head. "I don't know the big name," she admitted. "I only know what it does, and what can slow it down." Some doctors scoffed quietly, but others were thinking now. The senior doctor stared at the monitor, deep in thought. "What do you suggest?" he asked finally. The girl pointed to another page. "You need to clean the blood," she said. "Remove what is blocking it. Then give the body what it is missing." "That kind of treatment is risky," a doctor argued. "And it takes time." "We don't have time," the father said firmly. The nurse checked the monitor again. "The heartbeat is dropping," she warned. The girl looked at the baby, her eyes full of determination. "If you do nothing," she said, "the baby will die. If you try this, there is a chance." The mother stepped closer to her husband. "We have already lost hope," she whispered. "Maybe this girl is the miracle we prayed for." The doctors whispered among themselves again. Their voices were low and tense. Pride, fear, and responsibility fought inside them. Letting a child guide them felt wrong, but doing nothing felt worse. Finally, the senior doctor raised his hand. "We will review the blood again," he said. "One last time." The girl nodded. "Look deeper," she said. "Not where you usually look." Minutes passed as tests were rushed. Nurses moved quickly. Doctors stared at screens with growing confusion. One doctor's eyes widened. "This can't be right," he said. The senior doctor leaned closer. His face changed. "How did we miss this?" he whispered. The father's heart pounded. "What is it?" he asked. The senior doctor turned slowly. "There is something in the blood," he said. "Something rare. Something dangerous." The girl closed her eyes briefly. She already knew. The mother grabbed her husband's hand. "Can you fix it?" she asked desperately. The senior doctor hesitated. "There may be a way," he said. "But it is risky." The girl stepped forward again. "It is the only way," she said. The room fell silent. 18 doctors stood frozen, staring at the child who had just uncovered what they all had missed. And for the first time, they realized the truth. The 12-year-old girl was not guessing. She was right. The room was tense, every heartbeat seeming louder than the beeping of the monitors. The baby's chest rose and fell slowly, each breath a struggle. Doctors whispered among themselves, some in disbelief, some in worry. 18 highly trained doctors had tried everything, yet nothing had worked. And now, all eyes were on a 12-year-old girl. The father looked at her, hope mixed with desperation. "You said there is a way," he asked, voice trembling. The girl, Aisha, nodded calmly. "I saw what works with this sickness," she said. "It will not take long, but it must be done carefully. The senior doctor frowned, shaking his head. We cannot risk a child leading this. If something goes wrong, it could kill the baby immediately. Aisha looked directly at him. If you do nothing, the baby will die anyway, she said softly. Her small hands gripped the notebook tightly. I've watched the steps carefully. I know what to do. The mother wiped her tears, looking between the doctors and Aisha. Please, she whispered, do not wait. We are already losing time. The doctors argued, their voices growing louder, some shaking their heads, others muttering under their breath. The heartbeat monitor let out a warning beep, sharp and alarming. The baby was weaker now. Aisha knelt beside the bed, gently placing her hand near the baby's tiny chest. She looked up at the doctors, her eyes steady. I only need your help with the tools, she said. I can guide the procedure. The father's hands shook as he stepped closer. If you fail, he started, but his voice broke. Then nothing changes, Aisha finished for him, calm and firm. But if I am right, the baby will survive. The senior doctor took a deep breath. He looked at the monitors, then at the baby, then at the small girl. His pride as a doctor battled with his sense of responsibility. Finally, he spoke. All right, he said slowly. One last chance. We follow your instructions, but if this fails, there is no going back. Aisha nodded once. Thank you, she said quietly. Then she focused on the baby. She instructed the nurses and doctors step by step, using simple words and her notebook as a guide. Every instruction was precise, careful, and gentle. She explained how to adjust the medicines and how to prepare a small procedure that could help clean the baby's blood. The doctors followed reluctantly at first, but as they saw the baby's heartbeat struggling and the color of the skin faint, they realized there was no other choice. They trusted the child, even as their egos protested. Minutes felt like hours. Sweat dripped from the forehead of the senior doctor. Nurses whispered, checking every small detail. Aisha remained calm, her focus absolute. Her small hands guided, pointed, and corrected with confidence. Suddenly, the monitor beeped differently, a longer, steadier tone. The heartbeat, though still weak, was slightly stronger. The doctors leaned closer. The father held the mother's hand tightly, hope flickering in their eyes. The senior doctor whispered, almost to himself, It's working. Aisha smiled faintly but did not take her eyes off the baby. Not yet, she said. We have to finish carefully. One wrong move can stop everything. The mother watched her silently, amazement and relief mixing in her eyes. How can a child know all this? She whispered to her husband. The father shook his head. I don't know, he said, voice full of awe. But maybe, she's the only one who can save our child. As the team worked together, following the girl's guidance, a quiet miracle seemed to begin. The baby's skin tone improved, the chest rose more strongly, and the machines beeped with a steadier rhythm. The room held its breath. Every second felt like a lifetime. Everyone realized the impossible was happening. Life was returning to the baby, guided by the hands of a 12-year-old girl who no one had taken seriously. And in that tense silence, hope finally returned. The doctors, the parents, even the nurses, all were witnessing a miracle unfold. But no one yet knew if it would last. The next few minutes would decide everything. The room was tense as everyone leaned closer to the baby. Every eye watched the small girl, Aisha, as she calmly gave instructions. The monitors beeped steadily now, but the baby was still weak. Every second counted, and the doctors could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on them. This step is delicate, Aisha said softly, pointing to her notebook. We need to clean the blood first. Then the heart will recover naturally. One doctor frowned. That is risky. The procedure could make the baby worse, or even stop the heart completely, he said. Aisha looked at him calmly. And doing nothing is worse, she replied. Her voice was small but firm. The heart is only tired because the blood is not carrying enough oxygen. If we act quickly, the baby can survive. The mother clutched her husband's hand tightly. Her knuckles turned white. Do it, she whispered. We have no choice left. The father nodded. I trust her, he said, eyes fixed on the girl. Do whatever she says. The doctors exchanged nervous glances. They had trained for years, yet a 12-year-old child was now giving them instructions for a life-or-death procedure. Pride battled with fear, but the baby's fragile life left no room for hesitation. Slowly, the team prepared the equipment. Nurses checked every tube, every vial. Doctors adjusted the monitors carefully, and Aisha guided them, her small hands moving over the notebook and the instruments with confidence that seemed impossible for her age. "Start with the blood filter," she said quietly. "Slowly, steady, now." The procedure began. Time seemed to stretch. The doctors held their breath, their hands shaking slightly as they followed her instructions. Aisha's eyes never left the baby. Her focus was absolute, her mind perfectly aware of every small change in the monitors and the baby's condition. Minutes passed, each one feeling like an hour. The heartbeat monitor suddenly beeped with a stronger, more regular rhythm. The mother gasped, tears falling down her cheeks. The father's hand shook as he pressed it against hers. "It's working," whispered one nurse. Aisha nodded, guiding the team further. "Now add the oxygen supplement slowly. Watch the levels carefully." The baby's tiny chest rose more easily now. Its color returned slightly. The doctors could hardly believe what they were seeing. Machines that had seemed lifeless a few minutes ago now displayed numbers climbing steadily toward normal. One of the senior doctors finally whispered, almost to himself, This is impossible. How does she know this?" Aisha gave no answer, her attention fixed entirely on the baby. Every small change in the monitors, every slight movement of the tiny body, she observed carefully. The mother's sobs grew softer as hope returned. The father knelt beside the bed, holding both her hands, feeling tears of relief. Even the skeptical doctors were stunned, unable to hide their amazement. Then, suddenly, the monitor beeped sharply. The baby's heartbeat flickered. Everyone froze. The room went silent except for the machines. "Steady, slowly, don't panic," Aisha said softly, almost whispering. She guided the team with calm authority, correcting each small mistake with precise, careful instructions. Seconds later, the monitor stabilized. The baby's chest rose smoothly. The color returned more clearly. A faint cry escaped from the tiny mouth, weak but real. The room erupted, softly at first, then louder. Nurses smiled, tears in their eyes. Parents hugged each other, sobbing with joy. The doctors could not believe what they had just witnessed. 18 experts had failed, but a 12-year-old girl had achieved the impossible. The father looked at Aisha with awe. How did you know?" he whispered. She smiled faintly, her eyes gentle. "I watched, and I remembered. I knew what the body needed." The mother pressed her cheek to the baby's tiny head, tears streaming. "You saved our child," she whispered. "I will never forget you." The senior doctor shook his head, still in shock. "I have studied medicine for decades," he said quietly, "and I have never seen anything like this." Aisha looked at the baby one last time, smiling softly. "It's not about knowing everything," she said. "It's about paying attention, and not giving up too soon." The baby had survived. Hope had returned. And in that hospital room, everyone realized that courage, determination, and knowledge, no matter how small the person, could perform miracles. The room was still buzzing with disbelief. Nurses whispered quietly among themselves, some wiping tears from their eyes. The parents held their baby tightly, feeling the tiny chest rise and fall with stronger breaths. Even the doctors, who had spent years mastering medicine, stood frozen, staring at the monitors in shock. Aisha, the 12-year-old girl, remained calm, her small hands resting gently on the edge of the bed. Her eyes, though filled with determination, carried a quiet confidence that stunned everyone. She had guided the team through the risky procedure, and now, for the first time, the baby's vitals began to stabilize. This is unbelievable," muttered one senior doctor. His voice shook slightly. "All our efforts failed, yet she succeeded." The mother pressed her cheek against the baby, tears streaming freely. "You saved our child," she whispered to Aisha. Her voice trembled with gratitude. "I don't even know how to thank you." The father, normally composed and authoritative, fell to his knees beside the bed. His hands shook as he held his wife's hand. I can't believe it," he said, his voice breaking. 18 doctors, and a child saved our baby." A nurse stepped closer to Aisha, her eyes wide. "How did you know to do that?" she asked softly, almost in awe. Aisha looked at her gently. "I remembered what I learned," she said simply. "Watching, listening, noticing. I just tried to do what was right." The senior doctor cleared his throat, trying to regain some composure. "This is extraordinary," he said. "We followed a child's instructions, and yet, the baby is alive and recovering. This is a miracle." The baby stirred slightly, letting out a weak cry. Everyone in the room gasped. It was the first sound the baby had made since arriving at the hospital. The mother laughed softly through her tears, holding her child closer. The father smiled for the first time in days, his relief almost overwhelming. Even the skeptical doctors could not deny the truth. The child had saved the baby when all their expertise had failed. Pride and disbelief battled in their minds, but one fact remained undeniable: the baby was alive. Aisha knelt beside the bed, carefully observing the baby. "We need to continue monitoring," she said calmly. "The body is weak. But if we follow the steps carefully, the baby will fully recover." The mother looked at her with gratitude beyond words. You are amazing," she whispered. "A child like you've done what no one else could." Aisha shook her head. "I didn't do it for praise," she said softly. "I just wanted to save a life. That's all." The room filled with quiet admiration. Nurses smiled, some sniffled, and even the doctors looked at Aisha with newfound respect. The power of patience, observation, and courage had proven stronger than years of experience alone. The father finally stood and looked around the room. "You've all seen this," he said, his voice steady. "This is a miracle. But it is also a lesson. Wisdom and courage can come from the most unexpected places." Aisha glanced at the baby once more. "The baby is strong now," she said. "But we must not forget, the body is still healing. We have to care for it carefully." The senior doctor nodded slowly. "Yes," he admitted. "I've learned something today that no textbook could ever teach. We must always be open to learning, even from the youngest among us." The mother gently kissed the baby's forehead, and the father held his wife close. Their hearts were full of relief and gratitude. The baby's tiny hands twitched slightly, a small sign of life that was now more precious than anything money could buy. For everyone in the room, the impossible had become reality. A child, who no one had taken seriously, had saved a life when all hope seemed lost. And in that moment, one truth became clear. Sometimes miracles come from the most unexpected heroes. The room was still, filled with awe, relief, and gratitude. Every heartbeat, every breath of the baby, was a reminder that hope could never be measured by age, size, or experience. But even as joy filled the room, one thought lingered in the minds of the doctors. How had a 12-year-old known what they could not? This question would stay with them forever. The room was quiet now, but the energy had shifted completely. The baby lay peacefully, the tiny chest rising and falling steadily. Monitors beeped in rhythm, showing stable vitals. The parents held their child close, eyes full of tears and gratitude. Every person in the room, nurses, doctors, and staff, looked at Aisha with awe. The 12-year-old girl had done the impossible. The mother finally spoke, her voice trembling with emotion. "You saved our baby," she said, her hands shaking as she reached out to touch Aisha's shoulder. "How can I ever thank you?" Aisha shook her head gently. "You don't need to," she replied softly. "I only wanted to save a life. That's all that matters." The father stepped forward, his eyes bright with gratitude. "No," he said firmly. "You have done more than anyone else could. You've given our family a miracle. You deserve more than thanks. You deserve the world." The senior doctor cleared his throat, still trying to grasp what had happened. "I've practiced medicine for decades," he said slowly. "I've seen miracles before, but I've never seen one like this. A 12-year-old child, has done what 18 experts could not." The nurses nodded, some smiling, some still holding back tears. The hospital staff whispered among themselves, inspired and amazed. Aisha remained calm, her eyes soft but confident. She had done her part. The mother looked at the baby again, tears streaming down her face. "This child, this little girl, she is a hero," she whispered. "Not for herself, but for what she has done for my baby." The father held his wife close. "We will make sure she has every opportunity in life," he said. "Education, guidance, anything she wants. She has earned it." Aisha shook her head again. "I don't need anything," she said simply. "I just want to continue helping people." The senior doctor smiled faintly, finally understanding. "You have taught us something today," he said. "That courage, knowledge, and determination are not measured by age. True strength can come from anywhere, even the smallest among us." The mother kissed her baby's forehead gently and turned to Aisha. "You have changed our lives forever," she said. "Not just by saving him, but by showing us hope when we had none. The father nodded, tears still in his eyes. We will never forget this. And neither will anyone in this hospital. Aisha looked at the baby one last time, a small smile on her face. He is strong now, she said. But we must care for him carefully. Healing is just beginning. The doctors nodded, realizing that the lesson they had learned went far beyond medicine. It was about humility, patience, and seeing the potential in everyone, even in someone so young that the world had overlooked her. The mother hugged Aisha tightly. You saved more than our baby, she whispered. You saved us all, from despair. The father smiled and held his wife's hand. This room has witnessed a miracle today, he said. And it will be remembered forever. The baby stirred again, letting out a tiny, healthy cry. The sound filled the room like music. Everyone paused, smiling and crying at the same time. Aisha watched quietly, her heart full. She had done what she came to do, save a life, and in the process, she had changed everyone in the room forever. And in that moment, the lesson was clear to all. Wisdom has no age. Courage knows no limits. And hope can come from the most unexpected places. The parents looked at Aisha one last time, gratitude shining in their eyes. You are a true miracle, the mother whispered. Aisha smiled softly. I just wanted to help, she said. The baby's tiny fingers curled around the mother's hand, and for everyone in the room, that simple, fragile touch was proof that miracles, real, powerful, life-changing miracles, do happen. The room was quiet again, but now it was filled with peace, hope, and the understanding that one small person can change the world.